that I'm going to get into and maybe cover on the show at some point. But, really documenting all of the COVID's failures and the narratives that have been come out to be objectively false, using charts in order to do it has been pretty fascinating. I love it. But New Zealand has been one of those that is a country that people, you remember the authoritarian left in this country would refer to as, okay, New Zealand is how you do it, right? And they had the insane restrictions that you couldn't do basically jack shit, but they had these insane fucking restrictions. And but that's what we should do. Right? All the countries should do what New Zealand's doing. And I'm gonna read through a little bit of this from his Substack. My man's Ian. He's title: New Zealand's collapse finally ends the long international nightmare of zero COVID. Zero COVID was always a delusional fantasy, he says. Eliminating a virus that can be carried and spread by animal was never remotely possible, plausible, or even necessarily advisable, given the dramatic trade-offs it would have required. The very concept of zero COVID was clearly impossible to attain, and based on an abandonment of pre-pandemic planning guidance that repeatedly recommended that normal life continue as little disturbance as possible. But that didn't stop governments, experts, and media members from zero COVID advocacy and promotion. As of late December 2020, well, after it was glaringly obvious that elimination was not a possibility, Dr. Fauci, while expressing that he didn't believe COVID could be eradicated, said it could be eliminated in certain countries. That clip illustrates several of his most destructive misconceptions: that elimination was indeed possible, that it would be achievable through widespread vaccination uptake. One country, this is where the important stuff sets in, took the messaging to heart and committed to the incomparably nonsensical idea of zero COVID. They had policies named after this. It's COVID zero shit. New Zealand's policies have been praised repeatedly by experts and media members and compared favorably to the rest of the world as a model of pandemic leadership and competence and strategy. What's been the result of New Zealand's vaunted pandemic interventions as more variants have emerged into 2022? Certainly, if any country could achieve elimination, as Fauci suggested, New Zealand would be among those most likely. So have they eliminated COVID? No. He says would be a drastic understatement. So in April of 2021, The Guardian described in great detail how New Zealand's competence and unwavering commitment to science made them one of the world's most valuable resources in understanding how COVID spread. Their policies allowed for the country to avoid lockdowns by tracking the virus quickly and efficiently. That knowledge has proven critical for New Zealand's pandemic response, allowing it to avoid longer lockdowns by more precisely mapping the spread. Hilariously, their tracking efforts provided yet another point of evidence against endless push for universal masking. The scenario had dealt with the two residents in the country's managed isolation and quarantine facilities, David and Jane. David caught COVID-19 on a plane en route to New Zealand. Then at some point during the stay, transmitted it to Jane, who happened to be staying in a neighboring room. How, I wonder, did David catch COVID on a plane when masks are required on planes? The same bewildering ignorance can be applied to another sentence from the article describing how two people who never interacted caught COVID from each other. As it is evident from a review of available pre-COVID-19 evidence, masks do not stop aerosols. Aerosol transmission essentially ends any pretense of controlling or stopping COVID in the long run because it only requires shared airspace with someone who's infected with the virus. Masks do not stop the spread, nor do they protect against inhaling them. Any reasonable individual reviewing this case would immediately advocate for an end to forced universal masking, since there's clearly no benefit. And I believe, as of right now, and I'm going to actually try to confirm this right now. Let me get this information. I'm almost positive, if I'm not mistaken, that New Zealand, yes, right now they are reporting more new cases than the U.S. per capita, if I'm not mistaken. So the people that we were supposed to listen to, because New Zealand went out there and had all of these insane restrictions. I mean, you talking concentration camps, motherfuckers climbing out, trying to get up out of there, climbing out of the buildings and shit, risking their life trying to get out of them. What effectively are COVID fucking concentration camps, and not even them, they could stop this shit. But we're supposed to forget about that, right? That didn't happen. And this, I have to always bring it back to this one point, and that these people who advocated such policies, and when we talk about the trade-offs, advocate such policies that were so self-destructive to businesses, local, and they've been drastically, just insanely wrong and incorrect about their policies and what they were supposed to do. All of this stuff they said we needed to do, it never happened. Well, that stuff happened, but it didn't come out in terms of a solution. In terms of what they said, okay, it was going to do this. It was going to eradicate the virus, or it was going to at least stop it or halt it. And no, we've seen too many examples that show all of the public health experts really in this regards, for the most part, were incorrect. It had no bearing on the case rate or anything. And what are they going to do? Get away with it? Because it ain't them. They're stupid, but the people that still listen to them are even more stupid. You just listened to a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake, which is live throughout the week at 12 p.m. Central on youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. Be sure to check out my website, ericdjuly.com, so you can stay up to date with everything it is that I'm doing. You can also become a member and get access to a bunch of cool perks and exclusive content, which includes a social media hub where you can interact with myself and other members. It even has an app that you can get, which is now live in the Google and Apple stores.